Hi everyone, it's about 7:30 right now here on this Thursday, February 28th, 2013. I'm Stephen Boyle, student forecaster for New England weather and for Northeast Storm Center. Both of which are Facebook pages, so if you haven't liked them, go ahead and like them on Facebook. Um, New England weather does need a little bit more likes, but Northeast Storm Center is really going great. Um, but Basically, the reason why I'm doing this is, first of all, I want to get back on doing some video forecasts, and also people from Northeast Storm Center have been saying, hey, you should put out some video forecasts. So we'll do that, and along with that, we'll also be going back to the old format for the people who are subscribed on my YouTube page. So basically, the old format, how we used to do things. Basically, I'll be doing a weekly update as far as that goes. But this will now only be, and still will only be, for the Northeast. Okay? Now, if you were to look on this map, I'm not covering all the areas on this map. I'm basically covering these areas in here. So anywhere within this, if you live outside of this blue line, I don't cover you. But I will mention, though, in this video, because I will be kind of briefly mentioning a little bit about the spring season, I will be mentioning about kind of the whole country. And also, there will be a part of this video where I do want to show you the general pattern and general temperatures throughout the whole country. So you'll also see that. But for the most part, we focus primarily on the Northeast. And without further ado, let's talk a little about what's currently going on. And basically, we do have a winter storm warning or winter weather advisory up into these areas. And we'll check out that in just a few minutes. We also have a winter weather advisory out into parts of southern West Virginia, just for a potential of maybe a few inches of snow out there. So let's start down here, though. We'll look at some of the possible snow accumulations. You can see some of these mountains here into portions of West Virginia, Maryland could be talking up to 6 inches of snow. But again, mounts quickly drop off. But again, these are some higher elevations in here, so they'll be also talking about a few inches of snow potentially. But for the most part, most of your major cities and your lower elevations will be talking about less than an inch around a Coden, so nothing really that major. So yeah, let's take a check here on what's going on up into the northeast, or into northern Maine, I mean. Taking a look at the snowfall maps here. So basically, here is the general expectation as far as that goes. Let's kind of blow this up a little bit. You can sort of see that basically these areas right in here that I'm shading in is where the winter storm warning is. You can see some areas could be talking up to 18 inches of snow. Generally around the Caribou area, you start talking about the Fort Kent region, you're talking up to 14 inches. And again, we quickly drop off as you start working your way more south and eastward. Basically, these areas in here will be talking up to 6 inches of snow, with some areas only seeing a Coden, particularly in Downey's portions, particularly like the Downey's portions. This would include the Bangor area. So generally, once you get closer to the coast, you're talking about a little bit more of a mix or some more rain. But again, from a line, I would say from basically Millinocket northward, you're talking about a fairly good snowstorm. Although this is nothing out of the ordinary for these guys, it is going to be a fairly intense event, particularly in extreme northeastern sections of Maine. But, it's to be expected up there. These guys are probably very, very much accustomed to that, those sorts of conditions up there. But for the most part, mainly these guys will be expecting some normal. This is fairly normal for them. Here is the current radar imagery and basically you can see a very good amount of snow is expected into these areas of Maine. You can see a lot of snow is currently falling up there. Uh, Throughout the rest of the Northeast, there's not a lot. I mean, there's a few scattered showers or flurries here and there. You can see there into West Virginia, there's a little stronger of a pocket of precip, which is why there could be a few inches of snow down there. But for the most part, I think for the most part, everybody will be generally seeing not that much precip. There's a little bit more of enhancement off of the coast of Long Island and Cape, so maybe a little bit more rain out into those areas. But for the most part, I think everybody isn't going to be talking about a lot of precip with this. So basically, let's kind of look at fairly quickly here at all of the models here. Basically, what we'll do is we'll quickly go through the regular pattern, and the regular pattern isn't really all that active. I mean, over the next 84 hours, I mean, there will be some light precip and some clouds here and there across the Northeast, but for the most part, there's nothing really major going on from today through Monday. It's really nothing. Temperature-wise, though, if we were to take a check, let's take a look at some of our surface temperatures here. I mean, you know, the NAM did overdo the temperatures today, but just want everybody to know we are starting to get into that time of year again when we're talking about the sun angle. The sun angle is now coming closer and closer to the northern hemisphere. Therefore, don't expect to see a lot of near freezing highs. Don't expect to see a lot of highs into the 30s, particularly if you live in if you live south of really New Hampshire and Vermont. I mean, really, it's not looking to be that great as far as temperatures go. But again, the NAM does overdo the temperatures a little bit. Don't think it's going to be as warm as the NAM solution, but again, you kind of get the idea. It's going to be seasonable, which is above freezing. But again, like I said, it is March. We're almost getting into March here. All right, let's look at the general pattern according to the GFS. And again, these are American models, so there's not a lot to be desired of them, but it's worth looking at. Again, as everybody knows here, my favorite model is the European. But here's a GFS because, again, I like showing it to you guys. And basically, same situation, some lingering showers. Now, we will be watching this little area of energy. I'm not too excited about it, to be very honest with you. Some people are blowing this up saying, oh, there's going to be a huge, massive storm midweek for areas of like New York and New Jersey and Washington, D.C. I'll show you the Euro, and trust me, it's not looking all that great. The GFS, though, has been actually, to be very honest with you, very consistent on bringing this thing out to sea. This is because the west-based NAO is so strong right now. I mean, you want it negative, the west base, but you don't want it so negative that it forces storms out to sea. So basically, you can say that the blocking is a little too strong. Now, there will be some warm air advection by Friday of next week, it looks like, ahead of a front that will be moving through. So some warm air will probably be forcing through, and then we could be talking about some cooler conditions. Now, this is the 18Z, and the 18Z is a little bit different, though, on its solution. It kind of brings up a coastal, which is a little bit interesting. Am I totally buying these temperatures of around Dow at 276? We'll actually add in surface temperature just for the fun of it. But and it is around 1 a.m., so if that were to be the case, I mean, we would be talking about possible snows. Again, I'm not totally sold that, hey, this is going to be an all-snow event, but could it be more of like an event like what we saw this past the other day, where we saw a lot of rain and some mixing in some freezing rain, things like this? Possibly. But it is definitely interesting to look at. And then, of course, that exits out. There could be another little shortwave thing coming through. And then, of course, we look at the end, and there's some more warm air advection with a little bit more of troughiness coming in. Here is the temperatures, and basically you can see a lot of your highs are into the 40s, and basically overnight lows below freezing. Not really warm, but not extensively cold either. I mean, it's about average. I mean, it's like I said, it's what's to be expected around this time of the year. But again, look at those 50s though, coming in for next Wednesday afternoon, while everybody's saying, "Oh, there's going to be this huge monstrous storm." All right, now again, this is the GFS, so there is some variation on temperature. But I do want to note that even though the GFS may be wrong in its surface temperature, it's not all that far off either. All right. What am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say here is that surface temperatures during the afternoon will not support snow. The only areas that support snow for surface temperatures during the afternoon are areas basically through interior New York up through northern New England. Those are really the only areas that are very supportive of very good snows around this time on Wednesday, and these areas will not see any precip, nowhere near. All right, the only areas at best would be at southern New Jersey through these regions down in here. And it looks to me as if it were to affect those areas, it would mostly be in the mountains of West Virginia and Virginia, where the heaviest amounts of snow would be. Although there would be probably some accumulations into these areas during the morning or during the evening, it would quickly melt away during the afternoon with the snow, or with the rain that you're going to be probably seeing. And here's overnight lows, and you can see pretty much everybody going below freezing. And then, of course, you can see during the afternoon we quickly warm up. So it's again, we're getting into we're almost in spring here. And look at our 192 next Friday. I mean, you can see close to 60 degrees into the New York City metro area. It has 50 to 55 coming as far north as Massachusetts. And, although it's showing freezing conditions up in northern Maine, I mean, this punch of 45 to 50 is going as far north as the border of New Hampshire and Maine. So that's pretty far north, and that's pretty warm for these guys. And although it is still a little far out, I mean, there's still a lot of, like I said, there is still time for things to update. Now, this is 1 a.m., and you can see you're talking about some freezing conditions during the overnight hours. Now, here comes that storm, and look at the high temperatures. I mean, we're talking 45 to 50, which isn't all that bad, but it's definitely above freezing for highs. Now, here comes the storm. Now, it's kind of crucial that we watch this, because, again, there have been several different solutions. Now, what's interesting here is that it does show a pocket of cold air in place for this storm into southern New England. It does show 32 to 35 degrees into these regions, and even a pocket of below freezing temperatures or around freezing into the Albany area, going into the northern Berkshires. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. But yes, it does show that. So it's kind of interesting to note. Now, here is those temperatures around Tuesday morning on the 12th. This is definitely all snow for all of these guys, okay? Definitely all snow. I mean, we're talking some areas we're talking like 20 to 25 degrees. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's that would be all snow for these guys. Now, you would have to go probably down to these areas in order to see rain for that. But this is looking a little interesting, okay? But again, it is the GFS, and it's out to hour 276, so there's a lot of time before that happens. So that's probably to be taken with a very little grain of salt. And again, there's another probable rainstorm that would be probably cutting through and probably giving those guys some rain. And look at that warm air. And this is around, again, this is around 1 p.m. And you do notice, though, that you have cooler air into New England. And why is that? Well, that would be because if this storm here were to happen, you would probably be talking a little bit about a snowpack. Therefore, you would be probably talking about some colder temperatures. But look at how you just go south of New England and rapidly warms up. Really, really rapidly. That's how snowpack can really affect temperature. So, yes, if we do get that snow, it would affect the temperatures quite a bit. Um, so we'll have to sort of see. But even then, look at March 16th. Even though you have a snowpack, it would quickly melt. You would start seeing temperatures getting very warm again, and look at these 75-degree readings, 75-degree readings coming into Southern Virginia by March 16th. So we'll have to see. I mean, there's a lot that's on the way. I mean, there could be some snow, but again, this is only the 18Z run of the GFS, and there's still literally hundreds of hours and before that happens. So so basically that's over a week away before we have before there's even any start to concern about that. Here's a Canadian, and yeah, let's actually look at just the regular, at this right here. This is just a general basic pattern, and for the most part, it's looking like nothing really major. The Canadian doesn't bring in any major with this upcoming storm midweek next week. So, here is the Euro, and basically, it generally spells out the same thing. Now, I know a lot of people were saying, oh, the Euro is showing something major next week. Well, here's a 12Z run, okay? And basically, let's bring up surface temperatures. Now, the reason why I didn't show surface temperatures with the Canadian is because for some reason they don't work on here. So basically, that's why I'm not showing you, because I can't get them. So let's just show surface temperatures here. I know a lot of people are mentioning, oh, hey, there's going to be a major snowstorm. Well, this is next Tuesday, and here is where the bulk of the precip is. There's also a little bit more back out in here, out into the Midwest. But, I mean, this is around 7 a.m. in the morning. Here is temperatures according to the Euro at 1 p.m. I mean, you're talking 40 to 45 degrees. I mean, for the most part, I mean, like I said, we're getting into March now. It's not that conclusive of a very major snowstorm. You really need a powerful snowstorm and a very, very powerful flow from Canada in order to get a perfect snowstorm in March. It's very, very difficult. But basically, here is a storm, okay? And, this is around 1 p.m., okay? And look at these surface temperatures. I mean, we're talking 35 to 40 degrees, basically 40 to 45, or even 45 to 50 throughout all these areas where people are saying, oh, there's going to be a major snowstorm. Well, it's tough, especially during the afternoon hours. So even if we were to see a major snowstorm into this area, it would change over to rain. Again, it's more probable that would happen in the mountains of West Virginia and Virginia, rather than Central Virginia. Again, Virginia is in a tough spot. Remember, they're all the way down south. It's tough to get a major snowstorm down there, even in the regular part of the winter. Never mind March. I mean, it's a tough time to get a major snowstorm. Now, basically, if you want to look at general temperature trends here, I mean, you can generally see, for the most part, overnight lows below freezing, with overall temperatures generally 35 to 45 degrees, with cooler temperatures in northern New England and in the mountains. and some nights are cooler according to the Euro, and of course we move on through, and really the Euro doesn't show much. However, they do show an impulse of warm air by around Friday the 8th. So what am I saying? Because the GFS and the Euro are conclusive on this warm impulse coming around Friday the 8th, I would probably go ahead and say that there will be an impulse of warm air ahead of a front on Friday the 8th. That because again, two models are showing it, and basically when that happens, basically you can bet your money on it. But again, it's still far out, so things could change. But if that were right, we'd be talking about widespread 50 to 55 degrees, which would feel very nice to a lot of people, and even 60 to 65 out and through the Ohio River Valley. So we'll sort of have to kind of keep our eyes on it. And this is again through our 240, where it does look like there could be an impulse of very cold air coming in and giving the Northeast some rain before we get some cooler air coming in here. So that's basically what the Euro is showing through the next 10 days. Now, I am going to go to the United States, and this is where I'll show you surface temperature. Now, before we start talking about the spring, because I do want to mention the spring here, and I do want to kind of talk a little bit about that, I'm not going to do any formal, I will not do any formal, I will not do any formal forecasts for long range anymore. However, I will kind of put out my ideas on it. Alright, so first of all, sorry about this. Sorry that I'm in a chat room and things are coming up, so sorry about these little pop-up things. But basically, here's the situation. You have while you are seeing these temperatures, and you're probably saying, well, Stephen, well then, what's the use of a trough if you're not going to get any snowfall, or if your temperatures are not going to be below freezing? Well, trust me, our temperatures here in the Northeast are definitely much more colder than our folks and our friends out in the West. And this is by Sunday, so this is not all that far away. All right, here we have a pretty clearly defined trough. Okay, we have temperatures into the 50s for highs. These are highs yet again, all the way down to basically the Gulf Coast. We have temperatures into the lower 40s into northern Alabama and also northern Georgia, with temperatures into the 30s all the way as far south as Kentucky and Tennessee. Now, we look to the west, our friends in Denver could be talking about temperatures close to 70 degrees. Some localized areas could see temperatures over 75 degrees. Very warm, okay? And we look at these temperatures throughout a good chunk of central California, and just note how we have temperatures up to Southern California may see temperatures up to almost 80, while we have Central California into the mid 60s. But even still, that's very warm air. Now, from here, I want our focus to I want to show you my focus here on the mountains of Colorado. Even the mountains of Washington State, the mountains of Idaho, the mountains of Wyoming, and even some of the mountains of Montana. Notice how they have highs into the 30s, some of the higher peaks into the 20s. Notice how you have into Colorado some of your higher peaks getting into the 30s, okay, lower 30s. Okay, same in for Utah, and the same goes for the mountains of Nevada. All right, now compare these temperatures to the temperatures that are happening for a good chunk of the Northeast. They're pretty much comparable. When you have those sorts of temperatures out into the mountains, of those regions, okay, to areas that are generally below below sea level, in the Northeast, that's pretty major. That is pretty darn major. So basically, that is some intense stuff. Now, we look at high temperatures. I don't know why this keeps moving on me, but we look at high temperatures here into, let's say, portions of Montana, or also down through portions of South Dakota, Nebraska. Compare those with temperatures that are down in Florida. They're pretty darn comparable, especially to the northern sections of Florida. So that's something to be said here. We're definitely going to be talking about some very warm air that will be riding into the Midwest. So definitely we'll be talking about some very warm air. And basically we start talking a little bit more of a more zonal flow by the time we get to about the 5th, since if you look here, you'll see more of the south is covered in the warm air, and you'll see more of the north is in some of the cooler air. That basically tells me that the jet stream lies somewhere in here, and basically you're talking a little bit more of a zonal flow rather than you're talking more about a dig and trough. So basically that's what's going on, and we will be talking about some warmer air that will eventually get forced into the Northeast. It'll take its time here, but there will be a force of warm air ahead of a front. But even then, you'll notice that there's still some warmer conditions out into portions of Colorado, and even the mountains here are not that cold, but back to around normal for what they expect for this time of the year. So basically, that's what's going on as far as the temperature, as far as the spring and summer goes, or excuse me, the spring here. My basic thoughts are this. And again, I do cover just the Northeast, but because, I do like my country, the United States, I will tell you all what I believe is going to happen for the United States this upcoming spring. Well, for the northeastern portions of the United States, my thoughts right now are basically that we will be around average. All right, we will have, as you can see throughout the next several days, we will have shots of cool with some shots of warm. I think the shots of warm may actually become a little bit more frequent in the Northeast, but there will be probably some more colder shots than there will be warmer shots. More warmer air confined to the south and the west, and also the plains. It'll take its time getting into the Northeast. However, like I said, the Northeast will see its warm spells. Now, also, another thing I want everybody to know is that the precipitation will probably be slightly to maybe even above average in the Northeast. But again, spring is normally rainy as well in through these areas, so it may even be somewhat around average. But also, as far as severe weather goes, I believe the central portions of the country, particularly Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Missouri, into the Ohio River Valley, will see some very potent storms with potential tornado outbreaks into these areas. Very severe, strong. That's where the highest risk this upcoming spring is for severe weather. There will be some of these outbreaks will be pushed into Virginia and some of our regions, especially once we get on into April and May. So we'll have to kind of keep our eyes on that. Because and actually it will probably get its act rolling probably as soon as next week, because as you can see, we will be having a front that will be moving through. That's the reason why temperatures are so warm here on Saturday the 9th. Notice how we have this warm air here, and then you have this cold air here. The battle of the seasons. Okay, you have spring ahead of the front, you have winter behind the front. That is a classic severe weather setup, specifically for really for areas in here. I think these areas in here are going to be targeted the most this upcoming spring. And especially these areas in here. This is really where the heart and the meat and the potatoes will be as far as the severe weather. So this is really where I think things will get very active as far as severe weather goes. These areas in here. It will be very rainy in through the northeast. Okay, there will be a lot of periods where we get these frontal systems. There could be maybe some winds and some rumbles of thunder, but there will be mainly rains ahead of these fronts, and they will bring in some warm rains. You'll get some warm rains. They may turn to a little bit of a mix of precipitation behind the front, and a more chillier rain. But that's what it's looking like to me. And like I said, as we get along through the spring, these will change from warm rains to severe thunderstorms, and away from like these little rumbles of thunder and things like this. So that's basically what it looks like to me for this upcoming spring. Those are my thoughts on it. Again, I will not be posting an official forecast for it, but these are my thoughts, and I will be posting video updates weekly, for forecasts here. So, basically, I hope you guys continue to come back. I will be posting more videos. I know I haven't been doing them a lot, but for right now, that's all I have, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I will be back next week with another update. Take care, everybody.